or that you're creating violent content for misogynistic men to get off to. If you can sit there and say, but it's only 25% of children, there's something wrong with you. Depending on how long it takes me to edit and post this video, either a few days ago, a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I made this TikTok.
Hi, I'm Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm hosting SNL this week with Camila Cabello.
No, Gyllenhaal. Your name is pronounced Gyllenhaal.
I guarantee you it is not.
And I got quite a lot of hate for it, but not for the reasons you might think. It wasn't for anything I said or had insinuated. It was for the things that people thought I might be saying. Obviously, in this video, it looks like I think that porn is all net bad. Obviously, that I think that it's all awful and all evil and all horrible. Well, that's what a lot of people in the comments thought. A lot of people in the comments also assumed that the reason I thought of porn so negatively was because I was uneducated on it and because I was coming from a place of either ignorance or naivety. I had many comments that were doubting my researching abilities, such as this one here. And that really hurt my feelings because I'm quite literally getting a degree in researching things. But little do they know that I actually get incredibly obsessive about things. So I now know an extraordinarily large amount of the psychological, sociological, and neurological effects of pornography. Not because I want to prove people wrong, like some people on the internet seem to want to do, like when someone's expressing the trauma and betrayal they felt when discovering their husband's porn addiction, and you turn around and start trying to spit facts in their face. That's not a bit of me. I do tend to situations with at least some level of empathy. But because it's just one of those things that is so interesting to me, because I know people in my real life who I'm no longer in contact with, thank God, who had porn-rotted brains. And I say porn-rotted brains because I do view porn as a bad thing. Not a completely horrible, evil in the world sort of bad thing like murder, but a bad thing. But that also doesn't mean that I don't think there's anything slightly good about it. I think the negatives hugely outweigh the positives, but I'm willing to admit that all the research that supports my negative views can be argued against. Same way that all the studies that support positive things can be argued against. Another thing I realized in that video is that people really do think that they can read minds, that they know exactly what I'm talking about all the time, and they really don't because they don't know me or anything about me. A lot of people thinking that I was calling for the banning of all porn, saying that anyone who's involved in porn is evil. None of that is true. Today, I'm actually not going to be focusing on my personal opinion of porn or sex work or anything like that. I'm actually going to be answering the question on whether porn is all good or all bad, because that's for some reason what people think it has to be, either perfect and amazing and good or the absolute evil and root cause of all evil in the world. And it actually is probably somewhere more in the middle, and depending on your opinion on the things that I'm about to cover, it can sway more to good or bad. I also would like to point out that everything I'm about to say, all information I'm providing, is either other people's opinions that I have seen on Reddit forums, Quora forums, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube comment sections, or information I have gathered from online journals and studies, as well as reports on studies, because it took so long to find these and I have other things that I need to be researching, like actual things for my degree and stuff. But please do not assume that everything I say in this video is an opinion. I'm going to be looking at peer-reviewed studies, okay? Okay, thank you. Moving on, first talking point. One of the comments on the TikTok that I posted was this comment, which insinuates that all porn actors, or the women specifically, female porn actors, or they said women in sex work, but I'm going to talk about it for porn actors, selfishly benefit off of an industry which promotes misogyny, or a misogynistic industry. So that means we need to answer one question in particular. Is porn misogynistic? Porn itself can be seen as degrading against women and misogynistic. From 2008 to 2017, the top category on the hub was lesbian. To me, this is a clear hypersexualization and fetishization, hard word, of a specific group of women. This can be and is deemed by many as harm against women and therefore incredibly misogynistic. In fact, any single category of women ever, Black women, Asian women, lesbian women, trans women, disabled women, schoolgirls, mums, the elderly, has been made into a sellable fetish and has been made into porn. A little side note, if this stayed inside porn. Like, it was only fetishized within the world of, you know, people discussing specifically porn and people watching porn and commenting on it. That would be fine to most people, I think, but obviously that doesn't happen. Like, the word MILF was a porn category, and I don't know about you, but if I'm a mum and someone comes up and calls me a MILF, gonna make me kind of uncomfortable now knowing that I know the history of that word. And the harmful videos that are on porn sites are insane. Like, obviously this ranges from like extreme violence to child sexual abuse material. I don't know if that's the correct term because it's been all over my For You page on what is and isn't the right term, and I don't know what to say, but I'm just going to call it CSAM. And while most porn sites do scan for harmful videos and delete them off their sites, researchers Vera Gray and McGlynn found that though websites like The Hub, X Hamster and X Video state that they screen and delete harmful videos, they found over 10,000 videos that went completely against terms conditions, meaning that some of these videos were very harmful and had made their way onto the sites, which means that there are videos out there still now, because this was a while ago, that have been put out since then that may not have fully gone through the screening process or been missed in the screening process that are incredibly harmful. And it's not just adults finding these videos, it's children. Most of these websites have a like click to say you're over 18 that you can just click and go through onto the website. That is not safe enough. They have no real ID scanners. So this is where the discussion and what I believe to be the way forward as a form of harm reduction, to not ban it altogether because that will never work, but to a way to reduce harm would be to have much more severe and intensive age checks on these websites. Age assurance on these sites is not good enough at all. We know that to be true. But do you know how young the children who are watching porn are? Ofcom, I'm reading this, Ofcom found that an average age at which a child first sees online porn is 13, with 1 in 10 children being as young as 9. Barnardo's, however, believes that children as young as 7 years old are finding pornographic material online, and that in 2015 and 2016, porn was accessed 1.4 million times by UK children every month, and that figure has definitely grown, especially over the quarantine when everyone had masses of internet access. Get your kids off the internet now. The increase in extreme pornography that we've seen recently, and I say recently because the nature of porn has changed, especially with things like OnlyFans coming out, that more people can make porn now, leads to very misogynistic portrayals of women. Now, this isn't every single porn video ever. I know that's true, but it is a large percentage of them, because 88% of all porn in mainstream porn sites contains physical violence, and at 94% of the time, women are the target of this violence. That feels misogynistic. I don't know about you. This is the reason that OnlyFans creators like Bonnie Blue get so much hate online, because of the extreme lengths they go to for their content, whether that's involving barely legal teens, 1,000 men, posing women as this passive object in their videos, or using other OnlyFans girls who look like they are 14 in their content. This kind of material that she works to make is the reason people dislike her, not because she does OnlyFans. And the people who do dislike her because she does OnlyFans are fucking puritanists. They can get out. The increase in extreme pornography may legitimize abusive behaviors, so meaning that some excessive porn users who need very violent or graphic pornography to get we're going to get into that later, may end up finding CSAM videos or abuse videos that may legitimize their minds to say that that behavior is okay, and they may go out and elicit these behaviors. That is a very large and sweeping statement. However, it does highlight the massive fears that a lot of people in the UK, this is UK, have at the moment about online pornography. A YouGov poll found that 69% of UK adults think that porn that would be illegal on DVD should also be illegal to see and have online, meaning extremely violent things. And obviously CSAM is illegal online, but I'm talking things that are borderline, that wouldn't sell on DVD because it would be illegal, shouldn't be available for anyone to see online. However, that's not to say that all pornographic material online is what did I just say? However, that's not to say that all porn material online is misogynistic, because some of it's not. For example, someone on TikTok asked the other day, well, what do you think about porn that is written by women, for women, and only contains women? Is that still misogynistic? And the answer's, well, it depends. is it only women viewing it? If no, if it's a man viewing a lesbian couple because he wants to get off and fetishize them, I think that's misogynistic. But if it's viewed by a woman, I think that's up to interpretation. And many people say that no, that's not misogynistic at all. A lot of people in the comment section of the video I posted were talking about studies that show the link between misogynistic ideas and ideologies and watching of porn. Also talking about the links between committing acts of sexual violence and watching porn. And yes, there are many, many, many studies that show correlations between misogyny and watching loads of porn. In this literature review on a study about the relationship between pornography use and harmful sexual attitudes and behaviours, they say there is substantial evidence of an association between the use of pornography and harmful sexual attitudes and behaviours towards women. The current context of pornography consumption is a critical part in the picture, as a great deal of this easy-to-access mainstream pornography depicts sexual violence and female degradation. The 4 key themes of harmful sexual attitudes and behaviours that they looked at were viewing women as objects, shaping men's sexual expectations of women, acceptance of sexual aggression towards women, and perpetration of sexual aggression. And they state that porn has been shown to desensitize men so that they learn to see women as sex objects, engaged in a transactional one-way interaction. It can breed a lack of empathy towards these women who appear in porn films to the point where sexual aggression in these films is completely normalized. Porn has been associated with sexual scripting, the learning, priming, and acting out of new sexual behaviors, providing an easily accessible template for actual sexual behavior, which doesn't work in the real world. Porn has a statistically significant association with ASA, which is attitudes supporting violence against women. Porn has a statistically significant association with attitudes supporting violence against women, as measured by the ambivalent sexism inventory. In addition, past exposure to porn has also been significantly associated with more hostile sexism. Porn has been associated with an increased likelihood of committing both verbal and physical acts of sexual aggression, with the correlation being significantly stronger for verbal rather than physical aggression, but both were evident. Use of porn has also been significantly associated with reduced willingness to intervene in a potential act of sexual violence. You will also be able to find many studies that say that there is no link. For example, an article published by the University of Texas at San Antonio said that new research findings published in the journal Trauma, Violence and Abuse suggest there is no connection between pornography consumption and sexual violence. However, there are more studies that show that there is a link between porn usage and misogyny, sexual violence, domestic violence, domestic abuse. The list goes on, basically anything to do with that. And I need to make this crystal clear because I know at least one person's going to say this. I'm not saying it's causational, it's correlational. There is a link. There is a relationship. It is a correlation. It is a correlation, not a causation. Causation means that as X goes up, Y goes up, because X is making Y go up. But a correlation says as X goes up, Y goes up, because they just go up at the same time. So people often argue that it's not the porn that makes men misogynistic, and that they were misogynistic to begin with, and that's why they watch so much porn. That they're not committing acts of sexual violence because they watch so much porn. They're committing acts of sexual violence and they watch loads of porn. But then you're faced with an equally as an uncomfortable dilemma, which is, would you rather that porn is making men misogynistic, or that you're creating violent content for misogynistic men to get off to? Which one's worse? Which one would you rather? That's completely up to you. I don't know which one I think's worse, if I'm completely honest. Like I said, and the scientists who write this study, I'm going to read this to you right now. While it cannot be said that there is a direct causal link, and then it says pornography use is among one of other potential factors that appear to contribute to a permissive and conducive context that allows harmful sexual attitudes and behaviours to exist against women and girls. Basically what this means is it's a conglomerate of nature and nurture, that lots of things are coming together to cause these men to be aggressive, to be misogynistic, and many, many, many scientists think that porn is one of those things, but many say it's not. In fact, a meta-analysis in this year found that there was no direct correlation between the use of pornography and committing acts of sexual violence. However, there was one between watching extremely violent and gruesome pornography and committing acts of sexual violence. As well as this, another gov.uk literature review found that the use of violent pornography and prior exposure to parental spousal abuse were the two strongest predictors of first sexually violent act, meaning that it's not the only thing that's going into these men committing these acts. It's not the only reason they're going out and doing it. And I'm aware of that. That's something that a lot of people were commenting on in my video, being like, it's not just porn that makes people go crazy. And I'm like, I know. I'm not stupid. I know that. And you need to know that it's could be, and most likely is, as many, and I mean tens of thousands of scientists think that it is one of the reasons. It also has an effect on the children who watch it. And I have this on my phone for some reason. I don't know why. But a Barnardo survey of frontier practitioners, and so that's people who are working with the children, in 2021, found that more than a quarter of Barnardo's frontline workers who responded to the survey had supported vulnerable children who had accessed pornography. Nearly a third of workers said that it had led to children they supported developing unrealistic expectations of sexual relationships. 28% said that it led to children displaying inappropriate sexual behaviour, and nearly a quarter said underage viewing of pornography negatively affected mental health and well-being, and 12% that said that it normalised abusive or exploitative behaviour. So you could say, for example, the last one, that if nearly a quarter of children who had been helped by Barnardo's and had been exposed to porn said that it affected their mental health, that means 75% didn't have any repercussions of watching the pornography. And a lot of people would see that as then that's not something that's wrong with porn. If 3/4 of the children who were viewing it, that sounds crazy to say. I don't even think I can continue saying this out loud, because if that's your viewpoint, that's fucked. I'm sorry. This is where my personal opinion comes in. If you can sit there and say, but it's only 25% of children, there's something wrong with you. I'm moving on. I'm now going to talk about something that I got a very, very funny comment on. My opinion's backed by science, as like an off comment about the harmful nature of porn. They said, oh, what science? The photo of the mushed up brain that goes around. They're referring to this? And the answer is no, not this, because I prefer to read my studies, because this infographic provides absolutely nothing to anyone who sees it. And I actually hadn't seen it. I had to go digging for it. I meant other actual peer-reviewed studies by mass national organizations. So I've talked about the social research of the links of watching porn and misogyny and everything like that, but there's something that is an issue with social research, and that's, why would you admit to being misogynistic, and why would you admit to committing acts of sexual violence if you haven't been caught for them? Why would you admit to that? So I understand why people can be very wary around studies like that, and that's why I think that neurological studies are a lot better to look at. MRI studies on porn consumption found links between the amount of porn consumed and the change in the brain function and structure. These changes happened on the striatum and the amygdala. So the striatum is kind of, if I could drill a hole through my head here and here, like 3 inches that way and 2 inches that way, it'd be right there. Plays a role in rewards, like the reward process and goal-seeking behaviors. So dopamine, basically, like you do something and it feels good and you want to do it again. That's what that does. And the amygdala is in emotional regulation. And the people who had the massive changes in their amygdala were those who displayed compulsive sexual behavior. And those who displayed change in their striatum were those who had engaged in watching a lot of porn. They actually had less of a striatum than those who didn't watch any porn. Like the grey matter was physically a lower mass of grey matter, which is crazy. So if you put 2 and 2 together, you may decide that these men have had their brains altered by porn. Physically altered. The way their brain works has been physically altered by porn. But then, like I said earlier, you could say, well, it's cause and effect, you know? Is their brain altered? Or is their brain altered because they've watched loads of porn? Or do they watch loads of porn because their brain is altered? But then you've got the same dilemma, that's, are you going to continue creating this very harmful content for these men to watch just because they need more dopamine than the average person does? Are you going to cater to their needs in a way that is harmful? Are you or are you not? And if you say you are, go ahead, make the porn. And a University of Cambridge study by Dr. Valerie found similar activity in the brains of porn addicts as it did in drug addicts. This is in terms of like their ventral striatum, which is the bit that does the rewards. Porn addicts reacted to explicit material in the same way an alcoholic may react seeing a drink advert. The mere idea that there is even such of a thing as a porn addiction is debated, which is crazy to me because there obviously is. People in my own comment section commenting about how they are addicted to pornography and how they're saying they feel disgusting by it and they are guilty and they feel horrible but they can't stop. That's an addiction. That's an addiction. If you crave that dopamine the same way, if your brain is functioning the same way a drug addict's brain is functioning, I think that's an addiction. But again, that's my personal opinion. And I'm going to give people who say that it's not an actual addiction the benefit of the doubt when I say that there is no real definition of a porn addiction. However, there is hypersexual disorder, impulsive compulsive sexual disorder, ICSD, non-paraphilic compulsive sexual behavioral disorder. You can sit there and say, but it's only 25% of children, there's something wrong with you, CSBD, and out of control sexual behavior, which is OCSB. And a lot of therapists, psychiatrists will, when someone talks about a porn addiction, they self-diagnose themselves as having a porn addiction, they will group them under one of these. And because a lot of the time a porn addiction comes alongside lack of impulse control, because one of the things that happens when the reward center of your brain, I did A-level psychology, one of the things that happens when your ventral striatum is fucked up is that you need more dopamine, not because you've been exposed to so much of it, but because your brain is physically altered, physically smaller, and you seek rewards in a way different to everyone else. Now, just because studies exist and show things doesn't mean they're always right. If I Google, is the earth flat? I'm going to get NASA telling me no, but then I'm going to get the Flat Earth Society telling me, yeah, dumb fuck, of course it's flat. But the studies that I have looked over today are peer-reviewed, are peer-reviewed and like nationally recognized studies. In fact, a lot of them are used by the government to form legislation, like the Child Protection Act, like the Internet Protection Act was because of studies surrounding the impact of exposure to pornography on children. I don't know how much more I can make myself say, if I'm completely honest. I've got like 40 minutes of footage. I'm hoping that at least like 20 of it's good. But I just got really annoyed over the last couple of days because I've had so many people in my comment section acting as if I'm completely stupid and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I want to turn to them and say, I'm not you. I can look at the positives and the negatives and make a justified decision on whether I think it's good or not. And I did try and make this unbiased, but it's actually, not saying this is like a dig, hard to make it unbiased. One, it's harder to find the studies. And two, I am biased. Everyone is biased to things, and I am incredibly biased because, as I said, first-hand witness to someone who's porn rotted, and it's horrible. But yeah, it stuns me that there are people out there in the world who genuinely think there is absolutely nothing wrong with porn and the way it's presented on the internet, the way it's handled, the way it's shared, and everything like that. Obviously, I know that no one wants children. No sane, like, decent person wants children accessing porn, but there are people who are not talking about it but are talking about how great it is, and I think that's incredibly harmful and damaging, and unfortunately they're all in my comment section, so I made this video. I think I have something else to add. The lighting has changed hugely in this video, I think. I'm not sure, honestly, because the sun's been going down. I'm going to put the references to some of the studies I looked at in the description of this video if they fit. If not, I'll have to comment them. But there is a lot of studies that I use that are literature reviews or written within other reports, like the Bernardo's one, for example, and the Ofcom one. You can find them within then and then find them yourself because, like I said, I have a lot of stuff. I move out back into uni tomorrow and I'm not fully packed. So I got a lot of shit to get done and I'm not doing it. And I'm still talking. Okay. Yeah, you're more than welcome to make up your own opinion on porn. You really, really are. And I don't hate anyone who says, I don't think it's that bad, as long as you're acknowledging that there are things wrong with it, because there are people out there who won't acknowledge that there's anything wrong with it. And that hurts my soul. It genuinely does. Because I think it's incredibly damaging. And it oftentimes is people who are just online saying a bunch of stuff without doing any research. So I'm not going to say that they're all coming from a hateful place. I know they're not. Some are coming from places of guilt, some are coming from places of ignorance, and some are just being dumb. But that's all. I need to stop talking.